All right, so welcome to the Agile Coaching and Industry Practices podcast from triscrum.com. My name is Venkatesh and I have my colleague Arun Vignesh with me, who is going to exchange some thought process along with the practitioners on the call. And the plan is to run this webcast for about 45 minutes, talking about some of the industry practices, which is useful for all of you. And in the last 15 minutes, we are going to take some burning questions. Before that, let me set the logistics expectations. We are going to use the Jamboard, Google Jamboard, and I'm sure Arun Vignesh is going to post this Jamboard link on the chat.
I've just done that.
Yeah, wherein you can use that. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about a few logistics information. Then in the last board, I think 6th or 7th board, you will have some opportunities to post your questions. And we are going to monitor the question box throughout the webcast. Take questions then and there because it's going to be more of a conversation over presenting something. We don't have any presentations. Just for your information, we are just going to open up a few industry reports so that it's valuable for you. And also you can bring in any questions that you think which is relevant to Agile coaching and industry practices. It's going to be a little agnostic. There is no Scrum or Kanban or design thinking. There is no framework or strategy or methodology conversation. It's going to be Agile coaching conversation, which is going to be agnostic. About TriScrum, I'm very glad to host this from representing TriScrum along with my colleague. And we are a purpose-driven company with a strong mission to humanize organizations. We are a member of Scrum.org, IC Agile. Recently, we became registered educational provider for Scrum Alliance. We do offer a variety of coaching, consulting, and training services. For more information, I would request you to visit triscrum.com. I'm sure you will find the resources, especially the blogs, very useful because they have written transformational writings for you. If you're interested in connecting with us, maybe with the TriScrum team as well, please use this barcode to connect us on LinkedIn. We can exchange some thought process post this webcast as well. 45 minutes is not enough to have conversations, especially on Agile coaching. But we will try our best to be concise with the industry practices, and also we hope we will keep hosting a lot of webcasts on this topic. Yeah, and as I told you, there is a board for questions which is on 5th element. That is, if you go to the Google Jamboard, you can traverse using the top.
They can even use the 4th one as well. It's up to them.
Yeah, it's up to you. You can, but when you put something on the chat, we may not be able to monitor it.
Yeah.
We request you to put these questions on this board, and we can also unmute you at the end of this podcast. We may mute you throughout this webcast initially, for about 30 minutes to 35 minutes, because to avoid some background noises, especially when we are recording this webcast. But at the end, we should be able to accommodate as many questions as we can. That said, I'm going to introduce quickly about me, then I will give it to Arun. My name is Venkatesh. I'm a professional Scrum trainer and also a certified enterprise coach, CAL educator, certified agile leadership educator with Scrum Alliance, and I hold more than 15 years of experience in the industry. My mission or vision in starting TriScrum is to humanize workplaces. When I say humanize, helping organizations build capable and humane organization, because we think the solution space and the human potential is fully not utilized in many organizations. That's about me. Arun, over to you.
Thanks, Venkat. Hello, everyone. Myself, Arun Vignesh. I'm a certified team coach from Scrum Alliance and a Scrum Foundations educator as well from Scrum Alliance. And I also offer coaching programs as part of IC Agile. So being an IC Agile authorized instructor. And I come up with around 13 plus years of industry experience, working from starting as a business analyst and then on to Scrum Master, and then to Agile coaching, enterprise Agile coaching. So that's a brief about me. Looking forward to have meaningful conversations today.
Okay, thanks, Arun. And how we gonna structure this webcast is very simple. So we are going to share some industry practices and maybe help people connect what agile coaching is and what agile coaching is not. We are also going to talk about some of the industry practices and share some good practices which we think helped a lot of people. So I'm sure most of you would have seen the Agile Coaching report that was done in collaboration with Business Agility Institute and Scrum Alliance. And the report is available on both the websites. And I would like to talk a couple of few things before I get onto the actual webcast. This is not a webcast that's going to endorse any frameworks or any certifications per se. It is going to just talk about industry practices. So when you see the interesting findings around that I saw in the State of Agile Coaching report is many Agile coaches think that taking the master degree, for example, the master credentials is not required to be an Agile coach. Most of the respondents said that more experience and the majority of the people invested their Agile journey. If you can see here, less than 1 year is 59%, and 1 to 3 years is 52% of respondents, and more than 6 years. When you see the respondents and their income range, it's pretty good. If you see this report from a holistic perspective, only 33% reported that they hold at least one coaching certification, which means when we talk about Agile coaching as a profession, 33% people holding certification, rest all not holding any of those certification is little surprising for many people that are looking to build their career as an Agile coach, right? So I just wanted to open up a thought process on what Agile coaching is, Arun, from your perspective.
Yeah, so from my perspective, Agile coaching is all about a coach who is helping organizations, teams, and individuals to get better in their practices in relation to the values and principles that holds them to be agile. So that's my perspective. I'll leave it to you to hear from you as well.
If you see the industry practices and Agile coaching is, in our view, is definitely viewed a little differently in the industry. For example, I've spoken to many Agile coaches when we were writing the white paper, and half of the respondents that we spoke or we interviewed, they were not sure about what Agile coaching is. They either mix the professional coaching into the Agile coaching, or they probably totally take a different stance and say only consulting is Agile coaching. So in my view, Agile coaching is definitely having an agenda. In professional coaching, we don't have that agenda. In Agile coaching, we have an agenda that we want to help people become more agile. We want to say doing Agile or being Agile, it's all a different debate, but how are you going to help people become more agile? Or becoming more agile is something the Agile coaches really focus on. Either they bring Agile principles into the workplace, or they introduce a lot of practices. For example, some practices are inherited from frameworks and some practices are coming out from their experience. So Agile coaching isn't having a universal definition in my view, because we don't have any such definition. We can call ACI, Agile Coaching Institute, as one of the trusted sources, but it is always a debatable topic when you talk about Agile coaching. Coaching is not giving solutions, but agility is helping people becoming more agile. So when you bring these two terms together, it is just how are you going to blend your coaching skills in helping people to becoming more agile.
Interestingly, that's the first thing that they have addressed in this Agile coaching report. If you see in the first page, they've defined what an Agile coaching, what they think. It's good to have that.
Fine. So I'm going to go about talking about the state of Agile coaching in the industry today. If you see, I think this report is not going to give the glimpse of the overall perspective that is there in the industry, but it's going to give definitely a promising information on what is the value of an Agile coach. If you look at this report, the first thing that stands out from the crowd is improving agility across organizations. So that involves cultural change the existing processes, and building motivated employees or better workforce. That's the first value of Agile coaching, is what the report says. So this is very interesting. If you see, when you talk about agile coaching as an industry term, many people think agile is a mindset. We got to go on change the mindset of employees. But when you look at the least commonly mentioned and most commonly mentioned terms, I think the mindset is coming as the least commonly mentioned. It's surprising, quite surprising, because we are talking about agile is a mindset. But if you see the state of an agile coach, most of the things people mentioned is improving agility across organization. How they are going to improve the agility across organization is altogether a different question. But mindset is something least commonly mentioned in the report, right? So I would like to take your perspective and add my own perspective on what do you think. Agile coaching is all about changing mindset, or agile coaching is all about bringing agility into the organization?
So ultimately, it has to go to their mindset, but somewhere they have to start. I guess we are still in a hybrid world. We have not completely moved away from a traditional ways of working. We call it as the top management is still in traditional ways, and only the teams are being made to move towards agility. So in that aspect, what I take away from this is that they're trying to change the perception of the people, or from a behavioral aspect, and then probably the mindset will come into picture. So maybe that's my take or inference from this report.
Yeah, and if you see this report a little closer, when you take a look at this report, it says most of the agile coaches think bringing agility into the organization, no matter how, being it team level, multi-team level, organizational level, is their goal. But one of the challenges that they see is leadership resistance. Of course, I'm sure many people on this call would agree. Leadership resistance, it's there in the report as well. The resistance from leadership is one of the biggest challenges in implementing agility. But it goes hand in hand in my view. Even though the report says mindset is being least commonly used and the most commonly used is improving agility, I think it depends on the organization and also how one is able to balance these two. Because not introducing some of the practices is going to definitely put you down, because people think, as an agile coach, I'm not getting any help from you. You need to introduce practices, you need to introduce visual board, you need to bring me a bunch of metrics. Those are the definite asks that you are going to face in your organizations. But unless you go and tackle the mindset part, it's not going to be useful. So my recommendation is you need to try to attempt introducing some of the good practices, but you need to tackle the mindset change indirect. Because the moment you are going to directly try to change the mindset directly, is going to definitely bring you some resistance. That is one of the reasons you get leadership resistance, right? Nobody likes change, and even me. If you come and tell me you got to have a mindset change, I'm going to view you as a psychology doctor, right? What am I having problem with my mindset? You're coming and changing me. I don't want to change my mindset. So I'm going to be definitely get offended. So my animal intuition is going to come out.
Yeah.
And that could be one of the reasons we think from this report when we interpret this. You see, interestingly, the value 2, 3, 4, improving communication, collaboration, and transparency. To me, this is the definite ingredient that any agile coach should focus on around, because I think when the moment you improve communication and collaboration and transparency, I think the change is not going to be induced by you. The change is going to be organic, and also many people involved in doing such change is going to, when multiple people involved in creating such change, probably their perspective, the subjective perspective that they bring into the table, become intersubjective, and that's going to altogether change the way that people think about what agile coaching is. What do you think?
Absolutely. So we acknowledge that we are in a complex environment. For complex environment, there isn't any templative solution. You've got to bring the collective intelligence to the table and then have an objective conversation. Absolutely, you nailed it.
Yeah. Interestingly, we are going to talk 1 or 2 values, not everything. You can access this report yourself, but I'm going to give you some time to think about this and take some questions in about 5 minutes. We're going to take some questions in between. I want to talk about the value 5. You see, improving management mindsets. So if you look at this report, they clearly says coaches reported mixed success when referring to management. And I'm not sure if the metric is available. They said some coaches reported having had a positive impact, and this was due in large part of having influenced the changes in the mindset of leaders towards agile thinking. So team coaches struggle to know their impact. You see the different levels of coaching. We don't want to categorize or bring in any hierarchies in agile coaching, to be very frank. Right? We don't want to say team coaching, leadership coaching, business coaching, but we recognize that according to your skills, you will be able to make an impact in certain context. You will not be able to make an impact in certain context, which means when you gain some industry experience as an agile coach, for example, having been worked in some companies for about a couple of years, based on the different trends and different coaches that we have experienced or we worked with, we think that in creating an impact in the management or creating an impact at the leadership level is going to be a little challenging for you. There are two reasons to it. Number one, you are not exposed to such level. So what's going to happen is when someone is going to connect you with the management, probably you may lack that awareness. So you may initiate a conversation which is less useful for them, right? Number two, we think is having a conversation with leadership is altogether a different skills. We are going to talk about those skills as well when we, at the end, we talk about three categories we are going to talk about. Again, I want to be mindful about not hierarchies, not structures, but team coaching, business coaching, leadership coaching. These are the three vast areas one can build their career as an agile coach, is what we think. Because we promised in this podcast, we would also cover the career path for agile coaching. For example, I hit the wall after 5 years. What's next for me as an agile coach? We think you can take different directions. You are excited or you are enthusiastic about team coaching, you can be with teams, sitting with teams, helping them some practices, helping them introduce some practices. When you're done and you feel little obsessed with that, or you think you want to do something different, you may take a different direction about business coaching. We will talk about business coaching at the end. And there is something called leadership coaching. So we think when you really want to make an impact, especially improving the management mindset, you need to be in the third state that we are talking, especially gaining some skills around leadership coaching. So Arun, would you like to add any perspective before I go and see if there are any questions on the Jamboard?
No, I guess you covered it. So it's not typically a hierarchy. Do not think that way. It's just three vast areas. If you want to get master in this one of the specific areas, Ankit was talking about your career aspirations. So if you're good at people skills, then probably I would recommend you to go deep dive into the team coaching and see how you can get the betterment from the teams. So it depends on your passion as well.
Yeah, I think it all starts with team coaching in my view, because when you jump into the executive coaching, for example, especially when you're an agile coach, you may have a very good professional coaching background, but you may not be able to use or utilize your professional coaching background completely in agile coaching environment, is my view. Because you are not going to ask a bunch of powerful questions to people. It's not going to be very useful for them, right? Why are you coming and asking me a bunch of questions? You may leverage those skills, but I think completely using those powerful coaching techniques is not going to be useful in agile coaching. Of course, it helps. It is complementary. I'm not denying that fact, but 100% using only professional coaching stance is not going to be useful, right? There are a couple of questions. I expect people can put their questions by generating a sticky note. I'm so sorry if I did not say how to generate a sticky note on Jamboard. That may help people. So you just go on the left hand side, there's a sticky note. Just go here and click on this. There's a sticky note gets generated. You post your question. Just type in and say save, and your question is generated for us. Okay, the first question is, coaching works when coaching asset is ready. But in org, everyone may not be willing. So how organization transformation happens, or how agile coach should approach? Would you like to answer that question, Arun, or to add your
Uh,
perspective so that I can add my perspective as well?
Sure, I can. So as you rightly said, only when the team or organization is willing to change, or they're ready to coach, you can do it. How can you start? It's again, we call it as something like a social contract or an agile coaching contract. When you get into the organization, you have to have a right entry as an agile coach. Why are you here for? What's the purpose that you're trying to achieve? So you got to have the right conversation with the person who's driving the change. So that's when you will be accepted, at least if you're new to that system. If you're existing in the system, then it is little easier. People may listen to you to some of the things, but not entirely. So being an internal homegrown coach or a person who's coming from outside, it is good to have some sort of a contract, what you're there for, and then get on from there. What would be the goal that you're trying to achieve? That would be the starting point, I would say.
Yeah, I think my perspective is going to be a little different, Arun. I'm so sorry. I'm going to disagree with you. It's not just about contracts. It is also about how you approach the situation. So let's try to introduce this, right? We try to put this competencies levels in TriScrum recently. There's nothing to sell certifications, but if you see, I'm not going to talk about certifications in this podcast for sure. If you see here, there are 4 levels: beginner, practitioner, journeyman, and craftsman. So we're trying to help people become better at agile coaching. We want to do that because we know agile coaching is one of the worst hit industries wherein people set unrealistic expectations to agile coaches. And this is where it's going to be helpful. For example, if you are a beginner, somebody who asks this question, do you have a choice as a beginner? No. It's like a new product development. When you develop a new product, initially it's all going to be buggy. So many links are going to be broken, and it's going to be very raw. And once you move towards practitioner and once you hit the journeyman is when you have a choice, right? Now that I spent about few years in the industry as an agile coach, I don't want to go and grab whatever the assignments coming on the way. I want to really have intense conversations with people that are hiring for agile coaches and make sure that I establish that verbal commitments over the maybe during the interview or maybe before even accepting the offer. That really helps, right? What agile coaching is, do we have an alignment with the leadership? Who's the leadership team that's going to be responsible for this coaching transformation? Can I speak to those leaders? But you don't have a choice, unfortunately, as a beginner or a practitioner. Only when you hit the journeyman and the craftsman, you know how to use this craft. But of course, we offer a lot, and we try to map these courses and show people, right? When you are there, when you take a PSM1 or PSM2, please don't think you are a practitioner, because we think based on the industry experience, based on the number of people we spoke to, we interviewed a lot of people and we spoke to a lot of coaches. We also spoke to some people who's holding only professional coaching background, and we came to this conclusion, right? Not all the tracks that we put here are offered by TriScrum. You see, ACC is something like ICF. We see that once you gain agile knowledge in the industry and go to the ACC is when you know the craftsmanship, you know how to blend things well. And that's going to lessen your burden, especially when you're talking about whether the org is ready or not. How do you know whether the org is ready or not? Somebody is coming and asking you, can you just go and assess our organization if it is ready and come up with a data-driven argument on whether are we ready or are we not ready? If you say we are not ready, what is that will make us ready? So those are the things or the tough spots you should be very confident at, especially when you're approaching organization. I hope that answers your question. If you have a follow-up question, please try to put on so that we can take. Another question, Arun, I speak a lot, so I would request you to add your perspective. Do we or must we generally ask for permission from coachee before we start coaching?
Yes, as per the coaching ethical standpoint. So before you coach someone, so I assume that here it is more of a one-on-one coaching. You're trying to have a coaching conversation in this context in your question. So if that's the case, then yes, because people may think that why is he only asking questions? Maybe you have to give them a context. You know what? Let's get on to a coaching conversation. I'm going to follow some process of asking some questions. During the time, you can reflect. So get some permission on to start with, and then go on. So yeah.
Yeah, permission is required for anything, no matter what, I would say. It is like coaching is like entering into somebody's bedroom. You need to definitely ask permission, because it's not just about it is said in the ICF, we need to ask permission. Permission is going to give some kind of safe environment for people.
Yeah.
And it is also going to reassure that I'm not going to enforce anything on you unless you give me permission. So you are setting that from the day one, and that's going to definitely be helpful when you are getting into coaching conversation. I hope that is helpful. The third question is, generally experts say agile coaching is non-linear approach. I'd like to hear from you on why it is called a non-linear approach with an example. Okay, let me try to add my perspective on this.
Yeah.
So when you say non-linear, the cause and effect is not directly proportional with each other. So you do something and the outcome is based on what you do. So left-hand side is something that I'm doing. The right-hand side is the outcome that is going to be directly proportional. Why agility is non-linear? Because agility is going to attack three ingredients, right? Technology, people, and the environment. So when you say environment, technology, people, these three ingredients going to be in one environment. That is the environment, you bring technology, you bring people. So there are multiple combinations possible. We will not be able to define the linear relationship between these two. For example, when you go and talk to, you must have thought that based on the survey, the first improvement I wanted to make in this organization is not allowing the leadership team to attend the daily scrum. Just take an example, right? You may think this is the first thing you need to do. But I would say from my experience, in my view, that is the most dangerous spot that you are taking. Because you think you go and educate them, they are going to understand it. And by then you're going to enable self-organization or self-management. But what would probably happen is when you go and speak to them, it might shut down the other ideas that you're going to bring in the future, which you would have not even forecasted or you would have not even thought of, right? You might move on with the next idea, but the impact that you created in the first conversation is going to come back. That is why it is non-linear. And you might have done with something with one intention, but the repercussions of those intentions would be very non-linear. You might have thought that the teams need to handle the conflicts themselves, right? You may be a very, very purist coach and not a very pragmatist. So what's going to happen? The non-linear relationship that has with these teams and organizations going to create something else for you, some other repercussions for you, right? To put it in a nutshell, agile coaching is changing, that is bringing in some change with respect to the people, the way they work, the interactions, the collaborations, and all that, right? It does not depend on you. It depends on multiple factors, and nothing is in your control, right? You are not in the driving seat. You are just at the back seat, helping people navigate towards the right path. The moment you try to take the driver's seat, you are going to lose your control, because 5 people are going to say 5 different directions and you're going to go and hit the wall. And that's why we think agile coaching is non-linear. It's not just the cause and effect of something that you introduce in the organization is not just one repercussion. It might cascade, it might create a cascading effect. That cascading effect is going to create some unintended outcomes which you did not even think of. So it's non-linear, involving people, organization, environment. So never and ever take a linear approach, especially when you are coaching organizations and teams. And then what's the best way to approach? There's no best way. There is a good way to approach is sense and respond to your environment. You see what is working and what is not working. Initial few days, I told you, when you are a beginner or a journeyman or a practitioner, it's all your waveries and slippery slopes like, okay, 50-50, this may work on this may not work. But when you are in the craftsmanship, it's not that 100% things are going to work. In the craftsmanship, you are debugging yourself. You are in a debugging mode as a coach. the moment something is going to happen, the time that you take to respond to that is going to be shorter, which means you debug yourself on the fly, and that's going to come unconsciously, right? And that's when you can approach things that are very non-linear and complex. Until then, we recommend people to focus on the low-hanging fruits. What is that I can bring today without any resources or without any challenges? Try to bring that, establish a rapport, and then once you establish that rapport, I'm sure that you will have some confidence on how to introduce the change.
Maybe I can touch one thing on it.
Yeah, please.
So agile coaching is what you're going to do is there, not just you're turning tables and chairs or computers into something. It's all human. So the human aspect will always be there. So taking a cue from the neuroscience, from David Rock's SCARF model, he says every individual will have their social factors like their status, certainty, autonomy, fairness, and relatedness. So when you're going to have conversations with people, when you're trying to change them, any of these factors may get affected. And because of that, there will be a lot of resistance. That's why we say the agile coaching or any change for that matter is involving with people cannot be linear. It will be non-linear.
Yeah. And I'm going to go back to the state of report again to give you or get you the industry connect. So if you see, ongoing professional development is very important as an agile coach, we think, because most of the coaches miss it. When they become an agile coach or they gain some experience, once they get into an assignment with a good CTC, and I say CTC, cost to the company salary. So they get settled down into the comfort zone, or maybe they think that is, yeah, let's pause our learning. After a while, we will figure out what to learn. We think that is going to be a trap. And if you see the countries that is listed, India is reasonably good. I'm not very sure what is I don't know how many people responded to this, but the professional development that you see in the countries like Sweden, Denmark, China, Germany, they spend more hours on professional development than us, right? When I say us, I'm from India, so I'm representing India, so I'm talking about Indian country. When you see France, Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, they spend less than us, but it doesn't mean that they don't spend on gaining experience, gaining in the knowledge from the community. So spending more time with the community, spending more time with the fellow agile coaches is going to be very useful, especially when you want to improve. That is what the report also says. Many agile coaches reported that having a professional development goals, continually learning something is really, really useful. And you see, especially there are two categories of employees, the full-time coaches and contractors. It says the contractors report spending the most time in professional development, 21.2 hours per month on an average, which means the contractors really recognize that if we don't invest in professional skills, we are going to be little out of the market, and that may not help us selling ourselves best. And interestingly, the educational goals on the blue column, if you come to the bottom of this report, it says 56% other knowledge and skills, 54% professional coaching skills. This is very interesting. As I mentioned in the beginning of this conversation, professional coaching skills really helps. It is a complementary, but you cannot leverage the professional coaching skills entirely. It doesn't mean you should not be leveraging it. As I told you, it depends on the journey, where are you in. You can refer tryscrum.com. The coaching path, it's all going to be the free infographic. We are going to say what is the journey, who is the journeyman, who is a practitioner, who's a beginner. All those information we are going to put you into the website. It's not just to grab some certifications. It's just to reflect on where you are and what is that you want to improve on. It's not just certification. You can spend community events. You can facilitate maybe large group community events. You can talk to fellow agilists. You can find a mentor from the community. There are other possible ways you can improve your journey as an agile coach. Arun, what's your take on educational goals for agile coaches?
So it's not necessarily only for agile coaches, right? So it is the truth that every professional has to have some sort of a continuous learning in their journey. Only when they have that learning mindset, so you'd have some sort of agility in yourself as well. So that's what my take. So I guess in the fifth discipline book, Peter Sain just talked about the personal agility. One, as an individual, you always have to challenge yourself to learn something or to achieve something. So for that, you've got to continuously learn. So it applies to agile coaching as well. So no wonder.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about where agile coaches are working, but before I talk about that, I have one more interesting information from the report. So let's talk about the challenges and see a few tips if I or Arun can give. There are top 4 challenges agile coaches mentioned in the report, especially leadership as a barrier to implementing agility and resistance to change from legacy structures, cultures, and mindset, lack of understanding about agility and remote working and COVID. I'm not very sure if those 4 factors are the top one because I never ran this report or I am never ever responded to this report as well. But it is interesting to see the first and second is interlinked: leadership barrier and resistance to change, right? Maybe most of the agile coaches or many agile coaches that you spoke would have told you change should come from leaders and only then the agile coaching should be sustainable. But I'm going to be totally different from that perspective. If we had to wait for the leadership support, I'm sure that we will never bring any change. No leader is going to come and say, do this change I'm interested in. Most of the executives that I spoke in when I was working, they just say, yeah, if it is going to bring value, please do it. Right? It might sound like a diplomatic answer, right? Value is very subjective there. What is that we are talking about? What value is there? What is the definition of value? We don't know. So a simple tip that I would like to recommend is, again, I would say, where you want to see yourself. Would you like to be a team coach? Would you like to be a leadership coach, or would you like to be a business coach? You need to clearly lay down that path or a career map for you as an agile coach, because mixing, I understand agility and the business agility term is bringing business agility at an organizational level. Focus on products, focus on the business, because that's an easy low hanging fruit for you especially when there is a resistance. Because many agile coaches that I spoke spend time on, are the teams doing daily scrum okay? Were there any impediments? Are the retrospectives having actionable improvements? No, you got to come out of it, because you may be a beginner focusing on practices, right? You need to move away from the beginner state to maybe a practitioner state or a journeyman state, where you focus more on what is the product that are we building, how are we measuring it, is everybody in align with the product outcomes that are we getting. So when you go and speak about these things to the executives or talk in those languages, the probability of you going to get some attention is high. But when you go and speak to somebody, hey, is the team self-managing, self-organizing? How are we doing these events? Why people are coming and attending daily scrum? Okay, retrospective, there is no actionable commitment. There are a whole bunch of impediments. I'm not saying don't remove those impediments. I'm saying try to relate all the impediments to the business case. If you don't remove this impediment, don't say teams are not going to be self-organizing. Move away from that. So if we don't remove that impediment, it is going to affect the business outcome. If the business outcome is going to get affected, the customers are going to be upset. So try to relate that, because initial few days is going to be definitely an experimentation ground for you, wherein you need to experiment a lot of things, because the field is new, the ground is new, you don't know the pitch. You don't know if it's going to be a bowling pitch or a batting pitch. You don't know whether the weather is good for you, especially in that pitch. Whether you will be able to take size or will you be able to run, we don't know that. It's all an experimentation ground in the initial stage. Try to relate the business outcome. Try to set an impression to the executives and the leadership. A simple secret tip. Try to set an impression that you are very much worrying about the business, not worrying about the practices. Things are going to be automatically coming in favor of you as a change agent. I wouldn't say agility is our goal. We don't want to bring Scrum, Kanban, this, all this stuff. Our focus should not be improving the events. Our focus should not be improving the practices. Our focus should be improving the behaviors and the way that we work. So the moment you focus on those and you set that impression right, I'm sure definitely the probability is high. Of course, you will have challenges. I'm not saying you will not have any challenges. All the jobs will have challenges. Arun, what's your take on this?
On the challenges, you rightly covered the first two. I would like to talk on the fourth one, because I have a failure story on that. So recently, last year, I got into an assignment to go for an agile transformation for an organization in a very conventional setup. And it was very hard to work in a remote during these times. Could not empathize people, could not hang out, could not get to sense what the people are thinking in a remote world. That too, when you're starting, if you're already in that environment, at least it would have been easier. But starting as an agile coach in an environment in a remote location, because your role is more of networking driven role. You got to have some sort of a collaboration brought in. You got to influence people. You got to empathize people as well. So for that, you need some sort of non-verbal cues and communication that for your support. And it is my failure story. I acknowledged it, saying that it is very difficult to start here. Maybe I have to sometime travel to your office to come and have a conversation with people, understand people, and then probably go back and do some sort of remote working. So yeah. You're on mute, Venkat.
Oh, sorry for reminding me. So let's talk on the last part before we go and take more questions. At the end, 10 minutes we'll spend on the questions. So you see, as I told you, the career path for agile coaching is very, very intense. Many people think I don't have a career path, but forget about this foundational certifications on this slide. Talk about the team level coach, right? Team coaching, you're enthusiastic about team coaching. You want to continue your team coaching ladder. Team coaching is not just about introducing practices. You have products, you have technical practices. You can bring in architectural related stuff if you're a technical coach, if you would like to take your journey toward that level. So technical coach and team level coach is going to complement with each other. As a technical coach, you can help your teams, sitting with them, helping them with good practices, introducing coding techniques, deployment, integration, tools, and all that. Right. The DevOps is the latest term that people used to say. And there are other two tracks that I was talking to you in the beginning of this podcast. Is I wouldn't call this as a multi-team coach. I would probably say it's leadership. When I say multi-team, it's not just about multiple teams of same group. It can go vertical also. So up to the leadership level, you can be a leadership coach. So for that, for any coaching, you need to have the foundation right, which is your technical or a team coaching. You should know what agile coaching is. As I told you, shifting your career from professional coaching background into an agile coaching is definitely possible, provided if you understood the nuances. And it's just like an art. You need to learn, you need to spend some time. And the business coaching is very interesting. I'm a product owner or I'm an aspiring product coach. I want to go and help the business. So in the business coaching is when you leverage a lot of good techniques like design thinking, personas, proto-personas, evidence-based management, right ingredients for helping people to solve complex problems like UX, better UX, UI problems, designing the business ideas, modeling your business. There are so many stuff that you can pick in your business coaching as well. So in a nutshell, any agile coaches can take one of these three tracks, you can continue to traverse into the team coaching level. You can improvise yourself into the team coaching on blending the right technical coaching flavor. The second track is like more of a business coaching. You are very much enthusiastic about product and you are very much interested in helping people solve complex problems using maybe product ideas and building the right product. And the third one is the leadership coaching. That is little tricky for any, because leadership coaching requires a lot of patience. And I would say leadership coaching definitely require a mentor. You need to find somebody in the industry with whom you had already worked or you had established some relationship, because mentoring is very organic. If you go and say somebody, I want to be a mentee or I would like you to get you to be my mentor, it's going to be weird because we don't know each other. It's going to take a lot of time. So that's the career path for agile coaches. And if you see the last piece of information in the respondent survey, you see 52% of people is from multi-team coach, only 11% doing the team coaching, 36% is a business coaching. So you have a lot of opportunities out there, and just 1% technical coach. So there is a lot of unrealized value in technical coaching. Somebody who's very passionate about developing coding, they can be a great technical coach. Somehow I have never seen many agile coaches expressing that interest, because I had been a technical coach when I was in Ericsson, when I was in companies like Trimble, where I tried to be a technical coach with a lot of teams, and we are losing the traction. Coaching is equal to process. No, it's not like that. More than that, you can build your career in coaching with maybe by focusing on the right audience that you want to coach, right? So with that said, I'm going to take a few more questions and see if that is helpful for you before we close this webcast. Arun, would you like to take one or two questions? I think I see only two questions. I'm a developer right now and I have a bit of experience as a Scrum Master. How do I start as a full-time in this role, as it changes my field of work and I get no entertainment in new organization based on my previous work? I think, yeah, I got your question. So I think you can read one of the blogs that we have written on TriScrum. I'm not sure if you happen to read that blog. So what you're asking me is building a career as a Scrum Master or a coach. So, so if you go to this blog, I have put down the whole thought process that I have with the industry. How do you build your career as a Scrum Master, right? So I put how do you prepare your CV, right? Your CV is usually important, appropriate training or preparing your resume, focus on the question, volunteering opportunities, community initiative, how do you build your network? All that stuff I put as a blog. So please go to TriScrum and go to the blog. So you'll find building career as a Scrum Master or a coach. So please refer that and see if that is useful. If it's just not useful, try to write to us. We will see how we can help you. Okay, so I'll come to this question later. Arun, do you have any other tip for a developer transitioning to coach?
No, I guess you've covered that well in that article. So that's more than enough. Grab that blog and then read it.
Okay, the question that I have is Agile coach should also have expertise on engineering practices.
Okay, so you call it as a T-shaped thing. So it's up to you to get into. We talked about different aspects of coaching. It's team coaching, leadership coaching, business coaching, and technical coaching, right? So when you got to work with teams, so you get master at one area, which could be if you're on think of because you're asking this question, so I assume that you're not a technical person as such, and you're good at this organization change strategy or something like that. That is your mastery skill. Probably it is nice to have to understand the nuances or the at least to understand what they speak, what the language they speak. It is good to know that. We call it as get mastery in one particular specific area, probably like a T at the top, have some sort of a knowledge to have some meaningful conversations. So that would be my take.
Yeah, I think that the answer is very short. You don't have to have an expertise in engineering practices. if you are not aspiring to be a technical coach, but it really helps. If you know some good engineering practices, it really helps. You can have a better connection with your teams. Depending on the career path that you choose, you can certainly take a call whether you want to become a process coach or a technical coach. But the answer is no, you don't have to have that expertise.
Yeah.
Okay, there are a couple of questions. What are the steps for agile transformation? I think this is not, yeah, it cannot be answered in a few sentences because there are no steps as such. We will try to write a blog on how do you approach transformation. So please visit our website in a few weeks. We'll try to have a blog on that. That's the only thing we could do to help people understand how do you approach transformation. So in the spirit of time, we will try to take a couple of more questions. If there is any follow-up question, please put on. How do you approach a person for coaching who thinks he doesn't need coaching? It happens a lot with managers and senior leaders. I think we answered this question. Don't go and coach people because people, I mean, this is why I used to talk about the differences between the agile coaching and professional coaching, right? The professional coaching, you set boundaries, you agree, you put a contract, you know, coach-coachee relationship, all that. That is how the coaching should work when you say coaching as such. But people mixed this jargon with agile coaching and say, I want to go and coach you. Come on, don't coach people. They don't like to be coached. Unless you have a permission, you cannot coach anybody, right? What is that you need to do when people are thinking that they don't need coaching? When you say coaching, that they don't have to do anything with respect to agile coaching, or they don't have a stake on this, you have to take care of all that. I think the best advice is to focus on the business outcome and relate them in the conversation, right? For example, when you are doing a coaching role, you take the product and you see a technical debts, you make things transparent, right? You somehow try to put things transparent into the product backlog, work with the product owners, and go to the management and say, hey, we are building a lot of technical debts. I've asked my teams to estimate the technical debts. This is what they've estimated. It's coming around 300 story points. Now tell me, what do you think about this? That is actually a coaching conversation, right? But the person would be more interested to talk to you because you're not talking in coaching jargons, you're talking in business language. That's why we put some, again, I want to refer this back, right? Can you see my screen around with the beginner, practitioner, journeyman stuff I'm showing?
Yep.
So that's why we put this levels for the business coaching, because unless you understand the flow, which is PSK, right? It's not about certification. You can gain this knowledge from reading, community involvement, talking to mentors, talking to experts on Scrum and Kanban, right? Unless you don't have this kind of a product ownership knowledge or a product knowledge or a bit of a flow on how you are realizing value today, your conversation with these guys are going to be meaningless because they don't know or they don't like to talk what you've been talking. But I mean, we need to reflect. Frankly speaking, many agile coaches talk a lot about process with people. They talk a lot about process. They talk a lot about events. They talk a lot about self-organization, self-management, right? Why are we doing all this? We are doing all this because we want to have business outcomes. What is that business outcome? Product. What is that we are building? Okay, try to connect those things because people would be interested to talk to you when you connect, those things with them over the process and practice. And that's our approach. I know it cannot be answered in a few sentences. It requires a lot of conversation, but we think we tried our best to attempt this. So your suggestion tips for an agile coach to become leadership coach, reference material helps. Yes, we have a lot of reference material on the blog that we put. We go to the blog, Building a Career as a Scrum Master. I've given you some ICF, CPCC, Coaching Coactive Institutes references. You can certainly take a look at it. And there's something called Leadership Circle profile. So I used to talk about this a lot in all my podcasts. So Leadership Circle is one of the effective methods to coach executives or leadership. So you can explore this. I think these two will occupy a lot of time. So that's the reference I would like to give you. Okay, so we'll take last question and we will end the podcast. What is the difference between a process coach and a technical coach? Arun, would you like to answer that, or you want me to answer?
No, I can give it a shot. So technical coach is more of helping the people who in their actual work. It's like helping in emerging architectures, helping in pair programming or some sort of things. Getting into those practices of technicalities to help better quality, to produce better quality. That's the technical aspect of it. Process is more of how it complements, how the process are going to complement your transformations, like more of your change management things. How do you bring in a change in an organization? How do you assess an organization? How do you work with leaders? How do you work with culture? So that's what you talk about, the process oriented in the coaching on the technical side as well. Maybe you can add on your thoughts.
That's pretty much the process coach focuses more on how do you generate outcome, right? What is flow? How do you establish this flow? How do you connect the different parts of the organization? How do you minimize or optimize your value and all that? Technical coach is going to focus more on the hands-on work. What is your code architecture and what are the coding practices? Do you have a good deployment structure today? There's so many contemporary technical practices. The technical coach more on technical nuances, helping the developers, especially sitting with them, more of hands-on. The process coach is going to complement this by introducing right processes or maybe right principles in practice to help people realize the value, because being too techie doesn't mean you can be agile. At the same time, being more process oriented, neither. So you need to bring these two into the right combination. All right. So one last question before we close this, because we are almost on time. How do you build credibility if you do not have certifications? General industry practice now is to look for certification, right? Any suggestion? Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have a very concrete answer for this. Building credibility requires a lot of time. Even we are doing it still. So I'm just on the journey. It's a work in progress for anybody, I would say. But gaining a certification is not that bad. Gaining certifications really build your confidence. It's like doing a makeup. I used to tell my mom, right? You don't do any makeup, you don't dress well. Are you a human being? Yes, we are a human being. But when you dress well, when you go to parlors, saloons, do some styling, do facial, this is like your training certification, right? It's going to build a lot of confidence when you look yourself in the mirror. Same thing applies here. When you do not have any certifications, you will lose your network because nobody knows you. Only when you go to an event, people will get networked with you. But if you do not have any certification, your foundational knowledge should be right. Right? We don't have a source. You need to find a right source to build that foundational knowledge. How do you build that foundational knowledge? Maybe find a mentor, you know who is a trusted person in the industry, you can go and speak to them. Probably they may try to sell a certification with you, which is out of our control, but it requires a lot of time. What you learn in 2 days of training is different from what you learn from the community. It takes probably a year. So that's why people go for certification. There's nothing bad. Apart from that, what else can you do? Be in the community, be a facilitator, organize events, write a lot of blogs. It took 3 years for me to write a decent blog. I wouldn't say that I'm decent enough to write a blog, but it requires a lot of time and writing skills. You need to sit and spend a lot of time. So maybe do podcasts like this, share your industry experience, write a blog, maybe write a book, organize events, be very active in your community, put some LinkedIn posts, which is very, very intriguing and prodding for people. Do something that is very useful for people in the community. That's the only way to build your credibility as an agile coach. It requires a lot of time without certifications, but certification is something people are going to trust you. If I don't have any certification and I organize the podcast or a webcast, it's very hard to get even a couple of people. But if I have a certification, people are going to trust me because he or she is validated by somebody who is a trusted body, or maybe he is coming from a trusted source. I might probably depend on him. So there's nothing wrong, but try to balance these two. Okay, so we are coming to an end. It's almost 7. The time ran out very fast. This podcast will be recorded and will be posted on our website. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you found this podcast useful. We will try to host a few more podcasts following the same topic if time permits for us in the August and September. Let's see. I hope you are all well. Stay safe and see you sometime. Arun, would you like to say final words?
Yeah, stay safe, everyone. Thanks for joining on a Thursday evening and spending your time with us.
Thank you, guys. See you. Bye bye.